Welcome to episode 6 of the If She Sits, She Knits podcast. My name is Heather. I'm coming to you from Central Texas. Today is June 23rd, 2022. Places that you can find me are on Instagram under If She Sits, She Knits, and on Ravelry under the same name. It has been a long time since the last time that I have filmed a podcast. As a matter of fact, I think it's been since February, and a lot of things have happened in my life that I just kind of didn't have a whole lot of knitting to share, didn't really want a podcast, and I'll talk about that stuff towards the end of the podcast. But I'm home early today because we had to have an air conditioning company come out and look at our air conditioning units because it is so hot here in Texas, and our AC unit is original to our house, so it's almost 30 years old and it is on the struggle bus. So I came home early from work so that I could meet with the AC technicians for them to take a look at it and then tell us if it would be a good idea for us to get a new unit or if it would be beneficial to just try and replace some things on it to make it work better. So anyway, that explains why I decided to film this at 3 o'clock on a Thursday. Also, I'm gonna try and be a little bit more consistent with, hi Violet, try and be more consistent with podcasting because I have a different work schedule now that we're trying to figure out with work and see, so basically what we're doing right now is I'm gonna work 4 10-hour shifts, still doing the same thing. I have the whole group of dogs jumping in on the podcast. Here's Zoe, here's Violet, and we have a new addition to our house. We have Minnie, who is a Labradoodle. Hey you, come here. Come here, up. You're gonna make Violet mad, come on. Well, you can see Minnie. Minnie's a Labradoodle. I'll talk about things that have happened. Again, life stuff will be at the end of the podcast. So, what I was trying to say before I got bombarded by all of my fur babies is that since I'm going to have a 3-day week, or 3-day weekend. Do you have hiccups, Minnie? Since I'm going to have a 3-day weekend, then that would mean that I am going to be in-house. Why did that happen? Okay. Anyway, there's a lot of distractions going on in the house, so I apologize, and I'm trying to get back into the swing of things with recording a podcast. I'm gonna have more time to do things for me where I may not have interruptions because the girls will be at daycare, which means I can do things in the house, like get the house organized, but that also means that I get some extra time for me to do some knitting, and then that also means that I get to do some podcasting. So that's the plan, and the dogs are bumping into my tripod, and they're probably gonna start chasing each other over a toy. Zoe, I know. Okay, so with all of this stuff going on at the beginning of the podcast, let's start going into what y'all came here for, which is the knitting. So grab a drink, grab a snack. I don't plan on this being a very, very long podcast because I don't have a whole lot of finished projects. from the time that I haven't been podcasting, because I just haven't had all of the time to do that. Okay, so let's start out with works in progress. Minnie. Okay, take the toy and go. Okay. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of commotion going on in the other room. Okay, so my first work in progress is a sock. So I am taking part in the Crazy Sock Lady K's Summer Sock Camp. If you don't know what that is where you knit socks during the summer, and there's different houses, like it's Harry Potter, different cabins that she has that are for the method of sock knitting. And you can be in the 9-inch circular group, you can be in the magic loop group, you can be in the DPN group. That's entirely up to you. You don't have to stay in that cabin. You can kind of float around, but depending on your method of how you're going to knit your socks is the cabin that you would submit your socks into for entries to win prizes later. I just want to knit socks because they're something that are easy for me to take with me wherever I go, and it's a small project, so that's instant gratification or quicker gratification from my knitting. So these are my Wicked Witch of the East socks. I am just knitting a pair of vanilla socks on magic loop, and I will see if this will focus in on my stitch markers, progress keepers. Let's see, will it work? Let's see, it's really trying to focus in on my face. Wow, camera, wow. Okay, so this is a mason jar of sweet tea. This is a taco. These are my Wicked Witch of the East socks. These two yarns were tied by Neely's Knits, and she no longer dyes yarn, but this was a set that I had purchased from her 5 or 6 years ago when she still was dyeing yarn. Let me zoom back out. So she is, I don't know that she's very active on Instagram anymore, but I wanted to knit these socks, and I was looking through my stash, which is right here, and I've showed that before, I think, in my podcast before, and in Vlogmas. Oh my gosh, I am so like out of touch with how to podcast. Not that I was really into it, I was only like 5 episodes in before I had like a break, but anyway. So back to these vanilla socks, 64 stitches. These are US 1 2.25 millimeter needles. I want to say these are 32-inch circular needles that I'm using for magic loop. I want to say this is 20 rows of ribbing in the red, and I don't know if it picked up on the camera, but it was, this has stellina in it. It's a silver stellina. And then the black and white is self-striping, and it's just plain. It doesn't have any sparkle in it, but definitely giving ruby slipper vibes. So I started these, I got this far into it, right? And here I am just, you know, minding my own business on Instagram, and I come across a post from, I want to say it was, okay, I think I saved it. Let me see. Did I save it or did I just like it? I know I commented on it. Where did it go? That's the thing where, like, I have a personal Instagram account that has like all of my like family posts and like my day-to-day stuff, and then IfSheSitsSheKnits Instagram is just strictly knitting. And so I try to go on both accounts, you know, as much as I can, and post on both. And I'm trying to find this post that I liked that has to do with yarn that is very similar to the one that I did on for these socks. So let me look. No, it was from Rachel at Wool and Vinyl. She did she post it? I wish I would have kept it. Did I screenshot it? No, I didn't screenshot it. That's so silly of me. Crap. Well, that irks me. Okay. So, Rachel posted a picture of her mom's socks that she had knit. And of course I wasn't smart enough to screenshot it when I should have. And I'm mad at myself now. But anyway, so her mom had, I'm assuming it was self-striping yarn like mine, where it's white and black. She had a mini like this one where it was sparkly and red, but what she did is, so it looks like the Wicked Witch of the East socks, because from here all the way down to the heel is black and white stripes, but then for the bottom, so the bottom of your foot like starts at the heel and all the way to the toe, and then it goes up, looks like a ruby slipper. And I was like, oh my god, like, I'm mad at myself for one, not thinking of it, and two, now I want to rip these socks back and do it on mine. And that's what I commented on her story on Instagram, and I was like, oh my god, that makes me want to rip my socks out and restart because I'm doing the same ones. But now I don't have a picture of it and I can't show it to you, and that sucks. If I can find a picture of what she did, then I will definitely put it in like this region so you can see what she did, because I really want to do those. I have another sock set, except it's green and black, and it has, I don't even see it up there right now. It's green and black, and then it has another sparkly red mini that goes with it, and that's also from Neely's Knits. And so maybe instead of ripping these out, because part of me really wants to do those socks like that, I also just kind of want to keep pushing through so that I can work on these socks, get them done, and then do another one, because it's almost, I mean, we're like 3/4 of the way through June and I have not finished these socks yet. But between work and all sorts of things, like, when am I getting my knitting done? Whew, excuse me. Okay, so before I move on to the next work in progress, I have my knitting project in my Stolen Minutes bag. I didn't pick this one on purpose, but it's so perfect because it matches my socks that I'm knitting with the black and white stripes. I don't remember where my progress keepers are from, but I will post the maker of them in the description box of this video, so you can check out whatever stuff they have in their shop now. I don't know if it's still available. Okay, moving on. When I did my notes for this podcast, okay, so my camera battery died. Before I was so rudely interrupted by my camera battery. Girls! Oh my goodness. Okay, so before I was so rudely interrupted by my camera battery, I was talking about the last time I tried to film a podcast. I'm moving my camera more. Was on the 12th, and that was the week that we were supposed to start my new schedule, and then I tried filming a podcast and like nothing seemed to go right. Today is not much different, but I kind of feel like it's a little bit better than what it was when I tried to. The reason I'm saying that is because the next work in progress that I have was going to be my Like a Cloud cardigan, but during that time I've ripped that out. I had this much of a start for my Like a Cloud cardigan. It just wasn't doing anything for me, so I started a snow pine sweater, and I'm not very far on it, but we'll talk about it so that you can see what I'm planning. Okay, so this is in a Molly Klein design bag. It's bursting at the seams. It's gorgeous. It's a sweater bag. It's holding my newest sweater. And I feel like a crazy person because today the high is going to be over 100 degrees in Texas. And this is probably the 4th or 5th time that I have tried to knit this sweater. I don't know what happened the first 3 times that I tried to cast this on, but without giving away too much of the pattern, once I got past the ribbed collar and I started to go into the construction of like the shoulders and then the yoke and all of that stuff, maybe I just didn't have the mental capacity for it at the time because I was lost. Like I was trying, and then in my head I was thinking, no, like don't separate the different balls of yarn because, you know, you're gonna have too much stuff like jumbled up as you're doing it. Because I think in theory, if you're in, comment below if you've knit this sweater before and if I'm thinking of the right things, because at some point you're gonna have the main color, you're gonna have the sleeve color, and then you're gonna have the yarn that does the little flecks that go through the main body of the sweater. So you're gonna have the 2 sleeves, that's 2 balls of yarn, the main color, and then the flecks. So you've got like 4 balls of yarn that are just like kind of all like all over the place that you're gonna have to deal with. Because when I tried to do it first, I was like, how do you get the 2 sleeves to work with the main color, because those are 2 different colors. So Zoe and Minnie are wrestling, and now Zoe is trying to start stuff with Violet. It's puppy chaos. Hi, Zoe. So anyway, back to my snow pine. So I'm on, hi baby. I'm on the, no Minnie, one at a time please. I'm just on the start of it. I think I have, let's see, can you sit down next to me, please? I'm on my 4th row of the collar, and it's 2x2 rib. So there's that, and this is yarn from, let's see if it'll focus for me, please. I'm just having the hardest time with this stuff trying to focus when I'm not in it. Okay, maybe it is now. So this is Dreams by Woolen Vinyl. And I have wanted to knit with this yarn in particular since I got it. I bought a sweater quantity of it, knew that I wanted a sweater in this color, it was gonna happen. That's the color that I wanted to do my snow pine with, or something. Like I wanted to make that sweater. I didn't buy this yarn in particular for it. I feel very vulnerable with the camera like zoomed into my face. So anyway, I really wanted this to be a sweater. And so my sleeves are going to be this purpley color. It's kind of variegated, very dark tones, wine berry colors in there. So that's going to be my sleeves. And then for some fun, I have had this yarn for ages. This is from Lemonade Shop. I don't remember the colorway name, but it's one of her rainbows, like pops of rainbow colors. So I am going to use this as, I think they're called flea marks or something like that, but this is what I'm going to do as the flecks that go through the sweater. So to show you all of it at the same time, see these colors here, and I think it's going to be awesome. Truly, I think it's going to be awesome. So that is my snow pine sweater. Hopefully I can get working on it more and have some true progress to show you in the next podcast. But I just wanted to share that with you because I made the tough decision to rip out my Like a Clouds cardigan, even though I really wanted to make that too. Eventually I'll make that as well because I do wear a lot of cardigans at work. But maybe if I have another sweater quantity or something that I find that I want to make a Like a Cloud sweater with, and I'll do that. I started to do it and then I lost track of where I was at, even though I was only like 3 or 4 inches into it. And then the pattern was going to be off and I was just like, psh, let's just rip it out, whatever. Okay, so my third work in progress that I have, and this is a long-term project because it's a scrappy project. That is my Coziest Memories blanket. And if you've been watching the podcast or watched Vlogmas or anything like that, you know that this only had about 1 row, like in length, for this project, and now it actually has some pretty decent length. This has been an on and off project. While I was not doing the podcast, I was working pretty heavily on this because it was the only thing that was bringing me joy as far as knitting goes. And I mean, there's not a whole lot of progress, but it's a fair amount of progress for me. In the last podcast, I talked about the socks that I knit for my friend Drew. He retired and I knit him a pair of socks, and this was the yarn that I knit those socks out of. And then the rest of these all the way down to where I was, or where I'm at now, which is not very far into this square. All of these are woolen vinyl minis from my Advent that I got last year. This mini that I'm working on right here is from a yarn shop in Georgetown called the Knitting Cup, and this colorway is called Strawberry Rhubarb Pie, and I got this on my trip to the yarn shop when it was my husband and I's anniversary. He surprised me by taking me to a yarn shop. So I started using this mini, I want to say I probably started this square a couple weeks ago. I haven't really touched this after I had started my socks, because you know, it's all about balance. I'm trying to give all of my projects enough attention, and usually the scrappy blanket is the one that gets neglected first. But here's another mini. This one's called Naked Lunch, from the same, this is the same size mini that I have that I'm working with right now from the Knitting Cup. These minis are called Rock Shelter Sock Mini, and these are 20-yard minis. They're 100% superwash merino, and the actual, oh my goodness, so you scared me, is rehabilitation, or yarn rehabilitation for the yarn Barift. But they had a bunch of these little ones. So that is my last work in progress. Here's the actual mini that I'm working with. And I have all of these ones. Oh, here's another one. This one's called Malachite. Same mini, same 20-yard mini. This one's coming apart. Okay. The rest of the minis that I have in here are Woolen Vinyl Advent minis. And some other random ones that I've thrown in there. This bag I've had for years is from Addicted to Sock Knitting, and I was in that group a long time ago on Facebook when she had an e-magazine, and I was part of the group. She was making bags. I don't even know if she still does or what the status of that group is now, like if it moved on to something else or if they still do things. But it holds all of my minis. I did have all of this stuff in my candy shop yarn lollipop bag, and I moved it because I wanted more space for minis for when we went on a trip, and so I just took all of this stuff with me. I think, well, did I put all my minis in there before that? I went on a work trip at the beginning of May, and I think I brought like a bunch of minis. I don't remember if I did my candy shop yarn bag or if it was this one. I don't remember. Okay, so now let's get into FOs. And I only have one FO. Oh, this fell out of the bag already. And it's a small itty bitty FO. And they're toddler socks for my daughter Maddie. She was playing with a pair of socks that I had knit. Hi, Zoe. You just want all of the attention. So my daughter saw that I had knit a pair of socks with the same yarn before, and she is starting to get more interested in hand knit things because I'm always knitting. And this is from Luna Pearl Yarns. This is in Vaporwave, and the mini is also from Luna Pearl Yarns as well. It's just a dark blue mini. But Maddie wanted a pair of socks, so I took her over to my stash and I said, pick a yarn that you want and I will knit you a pair of socks out of that yarn. And then I asked her what mini she wanted me to add to it, and she picked the blue one because she loves the color blue. So I started these socks in May. I finished them at the beginning of June, and that was because I wasn't working consistently on these. I really could have knocked these out within probably a week, but I just didn't sit down and crank these out really fast. So I used the Rose City Rollers Littles pattern. That's available on Ravelry. I did the 54 stitches size. My daughter wears a size 9 in toddler shoes, so the circumference of the sock is just a little bit bigger than her foot, so she does have some room to grow in there. She kind of has she has wider feet, so I felt like the 50 to 54, whatever one is the largest size that you can knit from the little socks, is the size that I did for that. And of course I tried these on her feet to see how long of a foot she needed, and then just went in with the contrast for the toe as soon as I started the decrease rounds for the toe. I had every intention of making the heel blue as well, but when I was on the plane on my trip, when I was working on these socks, I totally forgot to do it. And I was already down to the very bottom of the heel when I realized, oh my god, what am I doing? One's not gonna rip it back. But I'm glad that I made that mistake because it actually turned out so much better, because it would have just meant a whole lot of blue, all these stripes, and then blue again. And I also ran out of blue on the second sock, so I had to sub in another blue mini, but that just kind of adds to the character and the specialness of this sock. Maddie loves these socks. She is obsessed. She put them on her feet as soon as I was done with them, and she wants another pair. But I have to knit her sister a pair of socks before I knit Maddie another pair, because that just wouldn't be fair, right? So, looking at my notes, yes, those were 52 stitches. That's the size that was the largest for the sock pattern. And like I said, Maddie is a size 9 in toddler shoes, so it turned out perfect. Last part before we get into life updates is the acquisitions. And the first one that I have is a yarn bag that I saw Natalie from Knitty Natty post about, and this is from Cottontail Farms. They're available on Etsy, and this is just the smallest little sock, or basically I'm going to use this for sock knitting, but the littlest bag, and it has cute little birds on it, and it will definitely just hold one skein of yarn. But I thought it was cute because you can take this and unsnap the strap, and you can clip it onto your purse or a backpack or your belt, and you can walk around with your sock knitting project, and it is like the most perfect size for it. So when Natalie posted about it, I had seen one before that she had that she would walk around like Disney with, or when she was teaching and she was out at the car pickup line, she would just clip it onto her belt and then she could knit while she was walking. And I have been on a quest for one of those bags because, I mean, that just seems like the best thing in the world, to be able to walk around and knit. In a perfect world, if my children are contained into like a stroller and my husband's pushing the stroller, or I'm by myself. But I got one of these. I absolutely love it. I still have yet to use it because I wanted to share it before I started to use it. The second thing I have for acquisitions, I actually have to get up and go grab it real quick. Where'd it go? Okay, so while I was on my work trip, I stopped at a yarn shop. So I went to North Carolina for work because I needed to go testify in a case, and around the same time that I landed in North Carolina and I was on my connecting flight, I flew into Raleigh, and then I had to take a connector to Charlotte. Right in between that time frame, between those two connecting flights, myself and the other person that I had to go testify in court with, we were told, hey, the guy pled out. So that started the next 2 days in North Carolina before I could go home. So I convinced my friend who I was there with, who was gonna testify in court with me, I was like, hey, this probably isn't your thing, but I really want to find a yarn shop to go to while we're here so that I can get some yarn. and that way I can add it to my stash and I have memories of a time where I had to travel for work. So we stopped at a yarn shop, and I'll have to look and see where it is because I don't remember the name of it right now, but it is outside of Pinehurst, North Carolina. And the lady was super nice. I went in there and my intentions were just to find a mini, because if I'm somewhere and I want to stop at a yarn shop, I usually look for a mini from a person who is like a local dyer or local to that area, like state-wise or something like that, that is carried in that shop, so that I can add it into my Coziest Memories blanket. So she said, well, we really don't have any local dyers that have minis here. There are some minis, which I ended up grabbing this Madeline Tosh one, which Madeline Tosh is from Texas, but this is called Firewood. So I grabbed this one to add into my blanket just because I got it from that yarn shop, and it was like, okay, this will go into my Coziest Memories blanket for that. But I also grabbed a skein of yarn from a dyer called HB Knits. It's not a dyer that I was familiar with, but that's someone they said was local-ish to the area, and so I found a skein that I liked from there, and I think this is called Whoa. I'll have to look through their colorways because I'm not 100% sure, because the label was wet, so it kind of bled out the letters of the name. But this is single ply. I don't have a whole lot of single ply yarn, but this is fingering weight, and it's superwash merino wool. So this may be socks and maybe a shawl. I don't know yet. But I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to get something that was local to the area, local dyer, so that I can go back and say, I got this yarn when I was on this trip. I don't know if I'll ever go back to North Carolina. I really don't have a purpose to do so. So here's my souvenir. And who doesn't like yarny souvenirs? I also got a Progress Keeper that has North Carolina on it. So, I mean, that also serves a purpose as a souvenir. And so, yeah, those are the acquisitions that I have. I have purchased yarn in the time that I haven't been podcasting, but that's all in my stash put somewhere, and it's not anything like crazy spectacular. I mean, all of my yarn is spectacular. All of the dyers that I buy my yarn from are spectacular, but it's not anything that is sticking out in my head right now that I can say, I bought this time, and I got this, and I got that. I just, yeah, it's in my stash. I have more Mandy's Makings yarn because every time she comes out with something new, I end up buying like a share a pair or a skein of yarn from her. I'm trying to look at my stash and see if there's anything that sticks out. Haven't bought any more minis. I saw that Knit Picks came out with more Felici, and I'm kind of tempted, but some of the colors look the same, so there wasn't anything like overly whelming, like, oh my god, I need to have that from Knit Picks. But you know, Felici's fun, and it's a more affordable option for self-striping yarn. So okay, so if you've stuck around for this long and you've heard all of the knitting stuff and you're not so interested in the life stuff, then thank you for watching. and I hope that you come back and see the progress that I've made on the projects that I just talked about, and maybe I've cast on something else after that. But if you want to stick around for the life stuff, then here we go. So the last time I think I podcasted was in February. And since then, there's been some life changes. Minnie's brought it into the tripod. So we had some issues with the beagles that we had. They ended up being kind of aggressive with my daughters, and so they were rehomed and went to a rescue in Dallas, and now they are with a different family. In March, we got Minnie, who is a Labradoodle, and she is now 6 months old. So she is a very big puppy. So she loves attention. April was not a good month for me. I had some pretty stressful stuff that happened from the end of March into April with work, and that was a lot of stress. Not going to talk about that, but April I also lost my grandma, and so that has been a process with grieving her. And so to cover that quickly, my grandma was staying with my parents for a while. She went back to Minnesota to get things taken care of with her house, and found out that she had stage 4 stomach cancer. It was very advanced, it was very aggressive, and she was told that there wasn't very much that could be done to slow down or stop or get rid of it. So she decided that she wanted to transition from she wanted to go from, finding out the diagnosis to hospice to end of life care. So my mom went to go be with her so that she could be with my grandma and my aunt. My aunt and my mom took care of my grandma until her passing, which was on April 7th. We actually just took a trip up to Minnesota to do her celebration of life. That was at the end of, it was the beginning part of June. And so that's been something that I've been trying to process and grieve her, but also not Minnie to grieve my grandma, but also know that she had more time with us after my grandpa's passing. I definitely think that was more for family to be with my mom. She spent another year with us after my grandpa's passing, and she got to spend a lot of time with my mom, which was very important. She got to be around my girls, which was also very important, and she got to spend time with me, which was amazing when she was visiting down here. So I miss her very much, and I know that she is in peace and she's not in pain anymore, and she's with my grandpa, and that is everything that I try to remind myself when I get really, really sad, because I want her here. I want my grandpa here too, but that's just, it's part of life. So I do have an acquisition with that, because I went and got their signatures tattooed along with a robin, because robins are incredibly symbolic for them. That was something that they would look for, because that was their sign in Minnesota, that it was the start of spring. And robins also are kind of like a sign of like rebirth and a new start, and you know, that's what spring is every time that it comes around. And so their thing, even when they first started their relationship and they were dating, was robins, and they would go and look for the season's first robin. That's what's on my grandma's urn, and that's just something that robins were so special to her and to my grandpa that's Minnie. That's what I have with their names on me. And I mean, you can't get more some more unique with them, other than, you know, like the signatures that they used for their entire adult, well, you know, teenage into adult life for the rest of their life. So I have my grandma here, I have my grandpa here, and then I have the robin. So this is like 2 weeks old. But when we came back from our trip to Minnesota, I talked to my husband and I was like, this is something that I really, really want to do. I eventually want to finish up my sleeve anyway, but I really wanted to get something that was going to be a memorial to them, and something that would be a reminder to me of every time I look at it, and it's like, that's them. So this, my grandpa's signature, I got from one of his logbooks, because he was a truck driver, from one of his truck logbooks. And my grandma's signature I found while we were at her house is from her temporary driver's license from 1972 when she had first taken the Minnesota driver's license test, because I think she had an out-of-state license, and I don't know why she had a temporary license, why she had to take the driver's test again, but it's kind of funny. My family is not very tall people. I'm only 5'1". My mom's 4'11". My grandma was 4'11". So on her temporary license, that is where I got the signature from for my tattoo. Was she had a restriction on her driver's license that said she had to sit on a pillow. So, and I always get made fun of for my height, where they're like, "Oh, do you need to sit on a pillow?" Well, like, legitimately, my grandma was supposed to in her car. Did she do it? No. I didn't see a pillow in the car, but I mean, hey. So anyway, that's kind of my journey of what has been going on from the past couple months. Lots of work. Work has been very, very busy. I started a garden, which has a variety of things in it. Corn, squash, well, it's not squash anymore because those kind of, squash, cucumber, I said squash again. Corn, cucumbers, tomatoes. My tomatoes are like gigantic. The vines on it are just, they're crazy insane, like out of control. I need to go out there and fix that. Eggplant, onions, herbs like basil and all sorts of stuff like that. Herbs for cooking. Peppers of various varieties. And I feel like there's things in there. Oh, watermelon, cantaloupe. There's a variety of things out there that I've just kind of, as things like my zucchini squash and my yellow squash died out because of bugs, so I ripped those out and replaced it. I planted some pumpkins. I have loofahs. I don't know if you've ever seen a loofah plant, but like the loofahs that you get at the grocery store that are about this big around actually grow into like a really big bean pod, and then you can cut them up after they're dried out, and then that's what you can use in the shower to like exfoliate. Right now those plants are only like this big, but once I get like a giant loofah, I will share, just because I will be proud of it, and it will be awesome. So fingers crossed that those work. But yeah, that's everything that has been happening in my world and in the If She Sits world. And I post a lot on Instagram of trying to be more consistent with the If She Sits, She Knits Instagram, but because my personal one is private. But I'm also going to try and post more stuff on Ravelry so that my projects have all of their details in there, type of what yarn I'm using, you know, and everything like that. So that's it. I've probably said 600 times, and I apologize. It's just because I am so out of practice with my podcast, and I will try to be more consistent with posting. Hi, baby. Yesterday was Violet's I Got You Day. It was 7 years ago I got Violet, and I was always jealous. So I have been talking for a really, really long time, and I know I said I wasn't going to, but I can be kind of a chatterbox. So I'm going to close this out. I hope that you have an amazing day or an amazing night, or whatever you're doing, that it is amazing. And be kind to yourself, be kind to others, knit as much as you can, and try and find enjoyment in whatever hobby else you do besides knitting, because let's face it, I know my name is If She Sits, She Knits, but I do a bunch of other stuff too. So with that, and all of the puppies attacking me, it's 5 o'clock now, which means that my husband is coming home with my girls, and I will see you all on the next podcast. Bye. Minnie.